Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight, as it's the 2nd of December, and we are ready to ride the woo train with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. I don't know if you're excited about it, but I definitely am. And let's remember, Keith is working for the first hour, so if his phone rings, we will have to put him on mute, and then I'll just continue on by myself until Keith gets back. But first, let's say hello to all of you in our chat room tonight. We have Race Fan in the gold medal position, Nightmare with the silver, Logan L taking the bronze medal tonight. Raven is Ryan, or Ravenous Ryan, how you doing? And who else do we have? Be the Arrow, Jessica S, Lisa C, Steam Train Mark in Australia. Thank you so much for letting me know that I am alive tomorrow. Michael Morris and Tricia, how are you? John Hinoyosa is here. John will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Long Island, Badass Billy Gunn, Brown Dwarf, how y'all doing? Penny Van, nice to see you. And hi, Jenny, nice to have you back. And where are we here? James Horn, number 15 in your program, number 1 in your hearts, starting at left wing, Lars Jansson from Luleå, Sweden. Good morning, Tracy Scott. How are you? Invisible Tracker, thanks for coming on in. Human Carl, great to have you here. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Hi, Margio. How are you? And Monica, thanks for coming on in. Kim Stanley, good to see you. Kim Stanley will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. W. David Page, good to have you back. Kurt M. Road Flare, welcome to SOR Chat. Space Exposure, Dark Protocol, how you guys doing? Esmeralda and Donna C., thanks for coming on in. I am Pam. No, I am Pam. I am Pam? I guess I'm Pam. Richard Elmore, I am Pam. Susie B., how are you? And Human Carl, thank you so much for kicking off the super chat tonight. Very much appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. And let's see who else. iVoice is I. Welcome. Obi Flett, I am Pam. Welcome back, buddy. Damian K., good to see you. Crystal J., Judy of Gall, YJ Overlander, thanks for coming on in. You're pissing me off, Evan Walters. Yes, you are. All right. Pink Volo, thanks for joining us. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Robert Lamoth and John Swan, good to see you. And I am Pam. And Paramarv, good to see you. And Joe Stewart, welcome from Ortonville, Michigan. Thank you for joining us. Let's just start the radio side. Susan Go, how are you, buddy? Thank you for coming on in. And Mr. Gray Owl, nice to see you. And where are we here? I am Pam. And Deb from SAC, welcome. Philip Bacca, 405er, good to see you guys. Shaq Valet, always a pleasure. I am Pam. And James Weston. And Lily Pond, thank you for joining us. Alien Critter, good to see you. Cable Guy Matt is here. Remember, if you see Cable Guy Matt, hit him up for your free piece of coaxial cable autographed by Cable Guy Matt. Remember, folks, you cannot buy these in stores. Limit one per household. All right. Trisha, thank you so much for the lovely super chat tonight. Very much appreciated. Hopefully you're going to be one of the newbies coming to Vegas with us May 19th through 21st at the Golden Nugget Casino for the second annual Spaced Out Radio Fan Party. Hi, Bill WD40, lubing us up for tonight's show in the Spreaker chat room. Good to see you. Nathan Allen, thanks for coming on in. And who else do we have here as we're running out of time? Shadows of the Moon, welcome to SOR chat. I think we are all caught up. Oh, there's Midwest Night Watchers. Forgot to say him. All right, 10 seconds left. The super chat is open. Thank you, Carl and Tricia, for kicking things off tonight. Shop at our store, spacedoutradio.com. Horns up. Let's rock. From the snowy mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire, and check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great show for you tonight as we're about to embark on the Woo train. R Keith Andrews is back for the ET Connection. Then, in hour number 3, we're going to be joined by the Swamp Dweller for another spooky story. Then Tim Senor joins us for the UFO Report. Our main man, R Keith Andrews, joins us once a month for the ET Connection. The ET Contactee, known as R Keith, discusses his purpose of aliens coming to Earth and having contact with us. Keith is not only a contactee himself, he's also very highly intuitive. Today, Keith uses his gifts to help people for more than 30 years and help them understand what their own contact and consciousness is all about. We bring in our good friend R. Keith Andrews here on the big show. And Keith, this is our final show of 2022 with you, my friend. I cannot believe that we're here already.
It is almost, it's almost, on what's the word I'm thinking about? There we go. Pull a blank this early in the show. Now, it really is unbelievable. I still recall the early days of this show when there was such a hoopla about whether or not I should be on the air at all. And I'm certain that there's still people that question that.
Oh, sometimes I do, Keith. Keith, your computer is freezing up a little bit. I'm not sure if you are using Google Chrome or Firefox for this tonight, but or maybe you have a few too many programs open on your computer, but you do seem to be freezing up a little bit. But nonetheless, didn't understand a thing that you said there, but that's okay. That's okay. Keith, you have been a lifelong ET contactee for your entire life here, and you now spend the better part of your days in helping counsel people who have had their own contact. And I'm looking at Keith here, and he seems to be freezing up on his connection here. Keith, can you hear me okay?
You break off. I get about half of what you're saying at this point.
Okay. I believe it's looking at our YouTube channel on YouTube right now. It seems to be an issue with your computer tonight. So we're going to have to fix this up, my friend, in order to continue on here, because it's going to be pretty difficult if you're only getting every second word. You may have to reboot your computer.
I may have to, so probably 10 minutes.
All right, Keith, you go reboot your computer. I'm going to take you out of here for a second. But, there's a lot going on in the ET world, and we'll get back to Keith here momentarily, as he's just going to reboot his computer here. And that way we can have a fresh, clean connection with him, hopefully. ET Contact is one of those things that is very much still highly controversial regarding what people are going through. And I am a firm believer that a lot of experiencers out there truly do have some incredible experiences and answers that actually, get to it and get to the heart and the crux of the matter when it comes to why we are being taken and why people are experiencing such an incredible phenomena that is only really seen in sci-fi movies. I know, looking at our audience in our chat rooms, that, and I read your comments, that there are a lot of people who listen to this show that have had some sort of extraterrestrial experience. And, if we dig deep enough, do we really know where they're coming from? Do we know what's happening? Because the experiencers that I talk to are very clear and calculated on what happened to them. The skeptics out there will say, well, there's not enough proof. There's not enough evidence. And when somebody like Keith comes on, they will often say, well, what does this guy know? How does he get his information? Well, Keith is basically in contact. There are a number of people out there who have contact regularly. These are the people that may sound like tinfoil hat wearing lunatics, but in reality, we don't know what their everyday life is like. Could you imagine living in the shoes of someone who literally has contact maybe every second day, every third day? And when I say contact, we're talking being taken. We're talking losing sleep, missing time, saying to your friends you're going to show up at a certain time, and next thing you know, you're not there. And you don't know where you went. It is a scary process. And if this truly is extraterrestrial, which is what I believe, how do we control it? Why do they blank our minds with it? Why do we have such suppressed memories regarding it? Is it the travel to and from craft, where they could seemingly open up doors through windows and walls and brick walls and drywall and whatever else kind of wall that's made out of, and poof, we're gone for who knows how long? That's where things get interesting. And you can write it off if you're skeptical, which everybody should be. You can write it off as imagination. You can write it off as anecdotal evidence, and hey, it's just a story. We hear a lot of that in the UFO world, that it's just a story. It's a good story that easily could be made up. Or it's actually happening. And it's happening to more people than you know. Because remember, the people listening to this show, the majority of them will never admit in public or even come on this show to discuss their contact, whether it's for the fear of resentment, ridicule, embarrassment. There are a lot of reasons to keep this type of story in the closet. Nobody wants to be the weirdo. Nobody wants to be the one who gets laughed at. We're not comedians regarding this subject. We are real people who are trying to figure out what is happening as we wait for Keith to reboot his computer to hopefully get a clearer connection with him Usually we have a great connection, but tonight just seems to be a little bit off. So we're getting him to reboot here. And it always reminds me of, the stories that we have in regards to, why don't you have a camera with you? Why don't you set up trail cams in your bedroom or security cameras in your bedroom or in your house or wherever it may be? A lot of people can't afford that. A lot of people want their privacy in their bedroom. I could afford to do it, but I kind of like my privacy in my bedroom. I don't need some hacker in the Middle East deciding to hack into my cameras and seeing what I am doing when I am doing things. I don't need them checking out me getting into the bathtub or the shower or getting ready for my day or knowing how loud I snore. Don't need that. Neither do you. And the funny part about it is, if this was any other subject, and you may agree with me on this, you may not. If this was any other subject than aliens, there's enough anecdotal evidence to put someone away for life. For life in a court of law. Don't you ever scratch your head and wonder, because I do. Don't you ever scratch your head and wonder, why eyewitness testimony holds up in court, yet eyewitness testimony when it comes to ET interactions and abductions and contact, and you're all of a sudden playing bloody loco, pardon me. That's what I wonder. Why is it good for one thing but not good for another? Or for the skeptics, if you get scratches on your body, all of a sudden that's from cats or dogs, or you must have fell out of bed and scraped yourself on your bed frame. Something like that. The people who aren't there always have the best answers for why they shouldn't believe you. I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. I really do believe that there is a phenomena going on. I believe governments of the world know what's going on, and they're just not ready to admit it. That's what I believe. Maybe you stand in my corner, maybe you don't. I'm very cool with either way. But when you have contact and you have you're those little snippets, these little movies playing in your brain afterwards, or your body doesn't feel right, you know your body better than anyone. Doesn't matter whether you're a chubby guy like me, or whether you are a toothpick in size, or whether you're 7 feet tall or 4 feet tall. It doesn't matter. What we do know is all sorts of humans are having contact, and you know your body better than anyone else. You know when you're not feeling good. You know when you're stressed. You know when you're troubled. You know when you're angry or sad or any emotion that goes along with it. You know if you go to the gym, that if you work out too much, you know when you're exhausted. And you also know when something strange has happened to you and you can't explain it. These are all signs of why we need to listen to the experiencers a little bit more. Listen to their stories. Listen to what they have gone through and what they can recall. The recalls are short when it happens, but they are detailed. For some reason, we don't get to keep both, or very few actually do. Why are the aliens still taking us? If they have been here for millennia, you'd think they would have collected all the human DNA that they need by now. I don't believe it's an invasion. I don't believe, for the most part, that it's nefarious. And if they are studying us, what's the difference between what they are doing to us comparatively to what we do to animals right here on this planet? Whether it's fish, whether it's dogs, monkeys, cats, rats in a laboratory, snakes, horses, pigs, you name it. We're always trying to find out a little bit more. We learn. We're a curious species. Why do you think there's a big push to go to space? We want to know what's out there. It's our final frontier because we'll never get to the bottom of the oceans. The water's too deep and too cold and too pressurized. Space is the final frontier. And we need to know what's out there. And if they end up going back to the moon here very soon, will they tell us if there are craft up there? You know, is there an underground parking lot leading to a restaurant? You know, is there some sort of source out there that is recording what we are doing? Because let's face it, we would be considered probably one of the greatest reality TV shows in the entire solar system. I think so. You know, whether it's the moon or Mars. I was having this conversation actually with a friend of mine, Nicole Sackage. We were talking just last night about this, or was it the night before? What happens if they get to Mars? Elon Musk and his dream of putting 1 million people on Mars, and they find creatures there? What do they do? Are they allowed to take guns up there with them, just in case? Do you send up the Starship Troopers first to make sure there's no giant brain that is controlling these weird creatures to come attack the invading humans? Penny is asking, Dave, would you like to live on Mars? No. It would be cool to visit. I hope it's not like anything like Total Recall, though. I like Earth. There's places on Earth that I would like to see. It's a good planet. You know, we've made some incredible things here if we don't screw it up. We've made some incredible things here. I would love to go and drink a beer in London or somewhere in England on one of those cobblestone streets. Go to one of those bars that's been around since like the 1700s. I'd like to see the Eiffel Tower. I'd like to see the pyramids of Egypt. I would like to go north and play golf at midnight on a summer day in the Northwest Territories or the Yukon or even Alaska. Love to go to Australia, but the damn thing's too surrounded by sharks, and everything on the planet wants to kill you, from koala bears to the spiders and snakes. So I'm still judging that one. Right? I mean, you got to have some control. But no, there's a lot of things that I would like to see. There's a lot of mysteries that I would like to check out. I think all of you would like to do that too. Mars would not be on my top of my list for the sake of just that. I got to see what's around here first. I got a lot of things I need to do. I need to make sure that Sasquatch comes back to my gifting site next year. Little things. Go chase down Dogman to the east of me. But I am not going after Ogopogo or anything in the water. That's just freaky. That's just freaky. Not doing that. R Keith Andrews will be with us shortly here, as we are still waiting for him to get his computer back up and running because he's having some computer issues. If not, we will continue and we'll take your questions in the chat room, which is what we can do on a nightly basis. Maybe I'll even put the link up. But for you, do you think going to Mars would be a good idea? Would you go to Mars? Be a good place to come back to. That is for sure. I mean, how do you vacation on Mars? Like, where do you go? They're not going to have any key resorts or anything like that. You know, do they have all inclusives up there? Hey, we have a tennis court. We got cornhole. We got bingo for the old people. And oh, by the way, we have a petting zoo with all the little Zorks and Zeeks running around. I don't know. Is that all inclusive in one price for only $38 million? Here's a question for you with about 2.5 minutes to go before we got to go to break. You ever wonder why the prices for space are so high? Like, think about it. You're going to send all the rich people, the extremely wealthy people. I shouldn't say rich, the extremely ugly, wealthy people who can afford to go into space. They're going to go because it's an ego thing. But these are people who've never picked up a hammer. They've never, put hot tar on a roof. They've never picked up garbage. Pretty much have somebody brush their dentures for them. How are they going to survive up there when everything is pampered in their life down here? How are they going to survive? All right, let's check in with R Keith Andrews. R Keith, how you doing there, buddy?
Really annoyed with the computer, but not bad.
Right on. You're sounding better and you're looking better, my friend.
Well, it's been a long haul. But no, this glitch with the computer is exactly why when the estate comes in, I'm going to buy a brand new setup.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. We only have about 90 seconds here to go before we go to break, and I hope I did our audience some justice there and just kind of BSing with some topics about experiencers and stuff. Keith, the question did come up, though, from Pam. Would you want to go to Mars? Would you want to live on Mars?
Actually, they're really nice people. I wouldn't mind it so much. There's not quite so many humans. But no, in all fairness, there are really neat people. They do live underground, which wouldn't bother me too terribly much. But permanently live there? Probably not. But then I don't like change too much.
No, I know you don't. But, with the idea that in the next 30 to 50 years, we're probably going to start putting people on Mars, okay, permanently. Yeah. I mean, what could they run into creature-wise there? Are there, the photos we get from NASA, that's what we need to judge on, okay? And they show us rocks and barren wasteland, pretty much looking like any typical desert here on the planet. And, what are they going to face here? Are there creatures running around there?
There are creatures there that will come out of the sand and take you out without even blinking. I know of a couple that are just annoying as all get out. They kind of, from a terrestrial standpoint, kind of look like a manta ray, but they come out of the sand.
All right, yeah. We're going to leave it at that, Keith, because we do have to jump out for a break here. When we return, we're going to fire up R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. Audience questions are encouraged. Put them in capital letters if you're in one of our chat rooms or on Twitter. Spaced Out Radio continues with the second half hour next. All right, Keith, there we go. I'm just going to do a quick rundown of people who are in here because when your computer kind of shut down, I couldn't type hello to everybody. Thank you, Stephen Finnegan, for that wonderful super chat. I'm about 20 minutes behind in the chat room right now. So please forgive me. I'm going to burn through this. And who else do we have here? Mr. Gray Owl, I got your question. And let's see here. Oh, damn it. I hate it when it does that. All right, there we go. Hi, Ozzy Sue. How are you? Applesauce, thanks for coming on in. Vash the Impaler, good to have you here. And who else is joining us? Let's see here. Kathy Evans, nice to see you. Hi, Esmeralda. And Kurt M. And let's see, who else do we have? Zenzabil, how you doing, buddy? Good to have you here. And I am Pam. And I am Pam, by the way. Like, my name tonight is Pam. Let's see. Alien Critter, good to have you back. Bobo, thanks for joining us. And Digger Dog, good to see you. Invisible Tracker, thanks for coming on in. Hi, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Good to have you here, buddy. And let's see here. Lily Pond, good to see you. Minus 27 right now, Keith. What's it for you?
Ow. I honestly
know.
don't know offhand. Give me a sec, I'll give you an answer.
Mitchell Darling, good to have you back.
We're only at -9.
Oh, that's child's play. Child's play. I am Pam, yes. By the way. I am. And let's see. TMI, nice to have you here, my man. And let's see here. Vinman, good to see you. Oob to Joe's Bane, you've got aliens. Yeah, you do. Paramarv, nice to see you. And let's see here. That's I'm only a few minutes behind now. Oh, let's see. I am Pam. She's like, nope. I'm like, yep, I am Pam. Let's see here. Penny Van, nice to see you. I feel like I'm in like total slow motion right now. Derek Harshberger, welcome to SOR chat. Let's see here. Who else we have? I'm trying, guys. I'm trying. Sweet Donnie Cho. Good to see you. Super Duke. Super Duke. Nice to have here, Super Duke. Yeah. Judy of Gaul, thank you for joining us. Look at that, Donnie. Keith's hair looks like Dave's hair on a bad day. Wow. That's awesome. I think
that was an insult.
Oh, probably. Data Derivations, good to see you. All right, got that one. I do have some questions lining up. Shanthero, welcome to SOR chat. Jonathan Horvat, welcome to SOR chat. And underscore Maddie, welcome to SOR chat. I got your question.
5 seconds.
Yeah, we got 1 minute overall. Chris Mo in Austria, good to see you. And let's see here. Who else we got? I am Pam. I'm just going to make up a sign during the show that says I am Pam. Dave Grachin, welcome to SOR chat. I am caught up in the chat room right now. I think I'm going to make a t-shirt that just says I am Pam. That'd be cool. Love V Love, how are you?
Back.
Thank you to Steven, Trisha, and Human Carl for the super chats tonight. We very much appreciate it. Appreciate the love. Nathan Allen, good to see you. And we're going to get going here in about 10 seconds. Hi, gorgeous Ronnie over in Spreaker. How are you? And here we go, everyone. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection, as we think the connection is going to hold up tonight. And Keith, thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, and really thank you for tolerating the tech glitch.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Not the first time. Won't be the last.
No, certainly
Keith,
not.
let's start out with a question. Let's start out with a question for Mr. Gray Owl here, who is asking, Keith, do you still advise I merely strike up a conversation with a werewolf, or should our paths cross? Or should our paths cross? Or should we just battle to the death?
Battling to the death is the worst possible option. So, yeah, if you get the opportunity to talk, you're far better off and you'll live a lot longer. You know, the trick is getting their attention to talk.
Do they even talk? I think werewolves are more telepathic, aren't they?
No, they actually speak their own language. The drawback to it is it's an offshoot of canine, which most people have a problem with communication. Now, of course, if you run into one in human form, they speak whatever language they started with.
All right, let's move on to another question. This one coming from Mitchell. What about collective consciousness towards places like Mars or the moon or whatever? Will that help build a sustainable society?
Ultimately, yes. If people start treating each other like, and when I'm talking about people, I mean every race, every species. When you start treating people as equals, as in treat them the way you desire to be treated, it will enhance the options of connecting with the peoples on Mars and or the ones on the moon. And for that matter, any number of other places.
Okay, so how strong is the mind when it comes to new areas like that, like Mars or the moon?
If you're referring to can it stabilize the atmosphere or what have you, that's pushing limits. But can it enhance the overall communication lines between the different species? Absolutely it can. There is literally nothing that the human mind cannot recreate. There's a lot that humans won't believe they can accomplish, and therein lies the problem.
Okay. What about the thought here that once we populate Mars, that eventually it's going to morph and change the human anatomy so much so that people from Mars will never really ever get to visit Earth because they won't be able to handle it?
That is extremely fear-based rhetoric, in my opinion. I mean, yes, the atmosphere and the environment on Mars will absolutely alter the way people interact with it. And over generations will undoubtedly alter the physiognomy of the human genome. But will it make it so that the Martokians cannot actually come to Earth? No. Martokians are coming here anyway. They've been coming here for years, for quite frankly, centuries.
All right, let's get to another question here from our audience. Let's go over to Mr. Gray Owl again. R Keith Andrews, are there dog women? Because we always call them dog men, right?
The answer there is yes, there are. And you're going to love this one, but they tend to be a little more temperamental than the males are. But then again, they happen to be the warriors. They're the ones that are the real fighters when necessity draws up.
All right, let's go to Sweet Donnie Cho here. What sort of creatures are on Mars? Martian creatures?
Well, I was going to go there, but I figured that worked. A lot of what you look at on Mars they're either subterranean based or they live under the sand. Okay. And no, because of the fact that they're sensitive to vibrations and what have you, you put a crawler on Mars, they're not going to come up to take a look. Although there are a couple that could come up and just swallow the thing whole, and you lose the crawler. The funny thing is when they brought to everybody's attention that they had a crawler on Mars just a few years back, to me that would have been great news if they had told us when they got it there in the first place, which was in the mid-70s.
Okay.
Let's go to
finish up, please. Go ahead.
They're talking about colonizing Mars, which is a cute thought until you take into consideration it's already occupied.
All right, let's move on. Underscore Maddie would like to know, it looks like he's got a fantastic hair and beard combination too. Just going to point that out. Do you know of any extraterrestrials, Keith, that have square pupils? I probably won't be able to stay up to find out the answer, but thought I would ask. Y'all are awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the love, underscore Maddie, and that great hair and beard combination. Very much appreciate that. Keith is opening up his big book here.
I actually got asked that question. That's my thought. I actually got asked that question. I don't know if it was by him, but the answer is the Xenons. They are actually a robotic race. As in, they literally take mechanical material and build things that look like other biological entities. But yes, they have square eyes.
Weird.
More often than not, they have more than one. Or more than two, rather.
All right, let's go to the Doug Shelby. He would like to know, Keith, do you think it's possible that ETs caused your tech difficulties with your computer tonight?
Technically, is it possible? The answer is yes. But my bioelectric field has been crippling electronics for literally decades.
Well, then
I'm lucky I've never actually grounded a plane with it.
Then again, it's not aliens tonight. Nope, not aliens tonight. All right, yeah. Mennonite Abe would like to know, do the Greys worship a god?
The answer there is absolutely yes. And give me 10 seconds, and this is why I wrote this thing in the first place, was because way too many races, way too many variables. So we just go back here. And there we are. Yeah. The Greys actually worship something they call Source. Same idea. Still the creator of all things. Okay. But they absolutely worship a singular god. And yes, there are those Greys that think they're better than everybody else and should be worshipped as well. But, that seems to go with corporeal existence.
All right. Well, it always surprises me, and I think it probably surprises a lot of people, Keith. And you're not the only one who has mentioned this, by the way. Numerous others have as well, that many of the ET species out there do worship a god of some sort. Whether it's the same god many people on this planet, myself included, worship is one thing. I'm just wondering, if that's right throughout the universe.
The best I can tell you is, of the races I've run into, which is in excess of 100 that I've documented, quite frankly, we're looking at the greater majority of them. Absolutely. They call them by different names, but the attributes that they give, that they apply to their god, are pretty much consistent with ours.
Right. Okay. So is there, considering, the God we believe in here is supposed to be the Alpha, the Omega, the creator of all, would that be the same God that created them then?
Yes. And in their eyes, their God also created them in their God's image.
Got it. All right, let's go to Shan Therrell, first time in our chat room. Thank you for joining us. Are there some aliens in the sea?
Absolutely. We can start with the sea elephant, which are down at the bottom of the ocean. If you watch the movie The Abyss, you'll see some of what is really down there. Whoever did that, whoever directed that, absolutely had connections.
All right, Keith, we'll let you take your call because you are still on duty until the top of the hour. R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection will go on, and I think Shan, just for clarification, there is a lot of study going on right now within the disclosure movement regarding whether or not these UFOs or USOs under sea, what the hell are they called? Unidentified sea objects, whether or not they are bases out there. And many believe that with all the action in hotspots like Catalina Island around California's coast, that there are bases underneath the water. I mean, if you haven't watched the movie The Abyss, go back to when did that come out? Let's find out when that came out. Still love that movie. It stars Ed Harris and who else is in that movie? Elizabeth Mastrantonio. She was amazing in that movie. It came out in 1989 about a real intelligent life form underneath, and it was just an incredible movie. And it's like, this movie to me is like Flight of the Navigator from Disney in 1986, where this subject matter, the way this movie was created, is so surreal to what we are dealing with today with UFOs, USOs, and everything. And if you want a good look at what we think, and many researchers think is going on, it is the movie The Abyss that we are taking a look at. It's kind of scary. It's kind of weird. Not scary as in a movie, but just the thought that in the ocean that there may be these craft that are literally miles long sitting in the deepest parts of the ocean as bases. Right? It's totally weird. How do you not put up with it? How do you not do it? How are they able to go from underwater, where many people believe that these USOs have been tracked doing well over 100 knots underwater, where the average boat could go maybe 30 knots? How are they doing it? And then taking that exact same craft and shooting right into space. How are they able to manipulate the heaviness and the pressure of water and then just go straight shooting into space like it's nothing? I don't get it. I guess that's part of the fun part. Yes, but if you haven't, and trust me, I'm not really a big movie guy, but if you have a lot of interest in this subject, which I'm sure you do if you're listening, you would absolutely be blown away by spending your weekend watching The Abyss, watching Flight of the Navigator, and going from there. Choose your other movies as well. I don't think, at least I haven't seen a Hollywood depiction of extraterrestrials or ET contact as good since probably the 1980s. And of course, the classic Close Encounters of the Third Kind. There's some real stuff in there. Real stuff in there. I mean, going back to Flight of the Navigator, it's always interesting with that one because NASA is involved. NASA is involved in that one. It's where a young boy gets taken. He goes back in time, or pardon me, forward in time. And when the craft, which is a biological type craft, brings him back, it's like 8 years later, and his younger brother is now older than him because when David in that movie, yes, character's name is David, got taken, he was like 12 years old. And he's still 12 when he gets back, but his younger brother is now like 16, 17, somewhere around there. It is way too surreal that movie, when Disney made it, that they must have had some help. That's all I'll say. They must have had some help because so much of what we talk to about, and I mean, face it, all of Grant Cameron, the legend Grant Cameron's research over the last few years was pretty much all documented in that movie, Flight of the Navigator. From flying the craft. How do you fly the craft? Well, the kid flies the craft when he's learning how to fly it through consciousness. Grant Cameron writes a book about people who fly the craft, and they all say it's consciousness. Then, if you want to add another rock to that chip, okay, when the child is flying the ship, he is able to take that ship wherever he thinks he can go. Whether it's in the ocean, another USO, whether it's way up in space, whether it's over the Egyptian pyramids or back over the United States. The kid can take it anywhere. And we have missing time. How many people who are experiencers claim missing time? That wasn't really talked about back in the day. What was talked about back in the 70s and 80s and previous to that, even up to today, was people just vanishing, like in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But missing time? I don't recall a movie outside of the Flight of the Navigator where they went into that. I don't recall that at all. So it's very intriguing to me how realistic that movie is and how over time somebody like Grant Cameron, all of his research and all the paths that he has taken have come down to the same paths as that movie. It's fascinating to me. Absolutely fascinating. As this, we're just waiting for R Keith Andrews. to rejoin us here on the ET Connection so we can continue with your questions, because that is definitely something that we definitely want to do. If you're in our chat room, what's your favorite ET movie? What is your favorite ET movie? I'm curious. Focus on the last 20 years. Has there been a good ET Contactee movie outside of maybe Paul, the comedy, which was hilarious, by the way? Let's see. Predator for YJ. Signs. Yeah, Signs was a good one. Who remembers that in Signs? Oh, yeah. Arrival. I haven't seen Arrival. Mars Attacks. Starman. Laser Blast. Space Odyssey. Yeah, Signs tripped me out. Signs really, really freaked me out. Then again, I'm a big M. Night Shyamalan fan. But Signs really, really freaked me out. Because when I had back on this show back in when did I move here? So it'd be 2015 when Carl came back with his buddies. I could hear them communicating in my backyard. Just like the movie Signs. We don't have animals around here that make that noise. And I don't have a horse to call. I don't. Galaxy Quest, A Quiet Place, The Daytime Ended, Avatar. I liked Avatar. Yeah, Vin Man in our chat room's like, you never forget that sound. Men in Black. I will agree with Ozzy Sue on this one. Men in Black. There's a movie right there about how realistic is that. I just watched the first two parts the other day. Again. But you know, Agent J, when he stares up at the stars and says, you'll never look at the stars the same again, that's a pretty deep line. I think what, with all of us who've had some sort of ET contact, we all wonder about what that is like. We all wonder about what it is all about. Do you trust the stars anymore? Do you trust that what you are seeing just, is it going to come down and start circling around you and shooting bright beams of light down on you? That's where it gets interesting. That's where we all want to know our own answers. That's what's hard to believe, too. R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection will continue in hour number 2 as Keith's night at work is wrapping up. But here we are getting ready to go for our break at the top of the hour. And we will have some fun. We are going to get to more questions. I may extend this into the third hour because just due to the technical problems and everything that's going on with Keith, I know you guys love him and he loves you just back. We want to make sure we get some more audience questions answered tonight. So we will probably extend that into the third hour. I'll talk to Keith about that. Cut into Tim Senor's time. He's wearing a shirt that looks like he's ready for a picnic. Spaced Out Radio, the ET Connection, and R Keith Andrews continues when we return for hour number 2 coming up next. Stay tuned. All right, guys, I'm going to go check on my son here, but we are going to take a quick break. And just quickly here, I am scrolling through the chat room, so you don't need to repost your question. And hopefully I'll get them all. If I haven't got to it yet, we will get to them and go from there. So I got to say hi to a bunch of people too. Let me go check on my boy. I'll be right back, guys. All right. We're way behind here on the chat room. I will catch up. And we'll go from there. Keith, you're done for the night now? Keith, can you hear me? Keith, can you hear me? R Keith Andrews. Earth to R Keith Andrews. Wonderful. Tonight's just turning out to be a power show. All right, 12 seconds left here. Here we go, guys.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Abazo. Abazo is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our show with R Keith Andrews continues right now with the ET Connection as Keith comes in and asks audience questions, everything about extraterrestrials, ET contact, and everything in between. Keith, welcome back.
Well, thanks for the patience today, and thanks for having me. Talk
Keith,
about a twist event here.
I'm going to get you to turn your speaker down because we are getting a little bit of feedback from your line here.
And if I can figure out how to do that, I'll be more than happy to accommodate.
Yeah, we're going to have to, buddy.
Okay, how's that work?
Yeah, we're still getting feedback from you, Keith. You might have your YouTube chat on or the YouTube volume on your screen. We got to get going here, man.
Oh, might be the problem. Okay, killed the problem.
All right, thank you, my friend. All right, let's go to Sandra here as we continue with audience questions. Sandra says, in Canada, or is Canada like a safe spot for ETs, or would another country be more suitable?
Depends on the ET. The Strazazians are dug in here rather nicely, and they're quite comfortable. There are a few other races that have come through here, but in all fairness, it's not actually safer or worse than any other country to speak of. It just draws a different race, a different species.
Okay, let's go to Penny Van. If there are Martians, why would they allow us to even live there?
Well, they're not actually bad people. You know, they're decent neighbors, really, when you think about it. And as long as you don't go about destroying what they've already got, they're quite congenial. Problem is, if mankind decides to do on Mars what mankind is doing on Earth, mankind's going to find it a very inhospitable planet, and it'll have nothing to do with the weather.
Oh, very true. Very true. I really appreciate that. Okay, well, you know, the beings that are on Mars, I'll throw this one in there. The beings that are on Mars right now, are they more or less understanding that we are coming?
Oh, they're very aware you're coming. They're very aware that humans are on their way. And they are already educating their own kids on how to deal with them. Which is why when Mars hits its closest point, you'll find more UFO sightings by almost 3 times the amount. It's what's called a field trip.
Okay. Where are they parking
The
their
Martonians-
ships?
Try that again.
Where are they parking their ships?
Usually they don't park. But if you've ever seen the Martokian ships, look like a standard disc, okay, with a bubble on the top. Okay, I mean, if you look back to the old Bugs Bunny cartoons, you remember Martian, what was it, Martin the Martian?
Marvin the Martian, yes.
Marvin, there we go. Okay, remember the ship he had?
Yes.
Essentially, they had it right. Except for the fact the top didn't pop off it. But if they're going to touch down, it's usually somewhere out of sight of primary residencies.
All right, let's move on to a new question here. Let's go to Corey, who is asking, what is really happening on the surface of the moon? Is it a mining operation?
It's a way station. As far as the off-worlders go. Okay, if you go to the moon, and this is going to sound really wonderful, there is about, as near as I can figure, I don't know the actual measurement, but there's a real thin layer of atmosphere on the moon today. But when I'm talking thin, I'm talking in under a quarter inch from the ground. Okay, now the off-worlders use the moon as a way station. Okay, humans, on the other hand, are using it as an anchor point to start drawing an asteroid in geosynchronous orbit around the moon in order to build an actual interstellar starbase, like as a starship construction site. You'll see that in about 70 years.
Sure, we will.
Well, you
If
may have a
anybody's making
problem with
that
it.
long. Yeah.
And that would be the hiccup. Many of your listeners are not likely to see it.
That kind of sucks, thinking about that.
That's why I don't think about it. I just try and figure out how to make it my 137th birthday.
That would be nice. That would be nice. Okay, let's go to another question. Ray Finn is asking, how many races right now are on the moon, Keith?
Not a clue. No way counting them. They are constantly, the newcomers to the area touch in at the moon. They do have a okay. So when new races that are coming into the area show up, they check in at the hub and then carry on. But it's a constant ebb and flow.
So when you say a check-in, is that much like what we see on the movies Men in Black, where the aliens have to check in when they arrive on Earth for their vacation?
A little less cartoony, but yes.
And why would that be?
So the members of the consortium can make sure, so the officials of the consortium can ensure that the new arrivals know the guidelines they're operating under. Because see, they've got the consortium has a real simple solution. If a new race comes in and they don't warn them, they don't have viable reason to go solve the problem permanently. Because if a new race comes into the area and decides to attack Earth, the consortium has a simple rule. Go back to that race's homeworld, Okay, they're the home of their primary government, the home of their secondary government, and the home of their tertiary government, and blow all three of them to pieces to ensure the people that authorized the war, authorized the attack, were removed along with their influences.
Okay, let's move on to another question. Let's go to Human Carl, not to be confused with Alien Carl. And Keith is familiar with Alien Carl. Keith, the frequency 1.6 gigahertz seems to have something to do with high strangeness. Can you shed some light on this?
As near as I've been able to piece together, 1.6 gigahertz seems to run completely in conjunction with their communication lines, which is why you end up with the cross current. Essentially, it's kind of like lighting up a beacon so they can find you. But that seems to be the easiest way to put it. Of course, we are talking about 1.6 gigahertz when you're dealing with radio wave. When you're dealing with sound wave and with magnetics, you're dealing with two other levels.
Like?
Well, when you're dealing with the magnetics, okay, if you start looking at the lower magnetic levels, you're starting to look at the way to communicate telepathically, which can really get the attention. And I know magnetics and telepathy aren't supposed to go together, but actually they do quite nicely. Okay, but when you're looking at 37.4 microhertz, okay, on the magnetic wave, you're looking at a telepathic uplink. Okay, which makes it possible to communicate, but most humans don't realize they can pull that off. Now, I don't honestly know the decibels that you work with or the wavelength as far as the sound waves go.
All right, let's move on. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just going to say, I do know that there are races that use gravitons and the photons as ways of communication. And for that matter, lumions. But, you know, we could go a lot further into that and get really sidetracked.
All right, let's go to YJ Overlander. When ETs cause missing time or take you for a checkup, do they intentionally leave any clues for you to see?
Actually, they intentionally try and hide them to disrupt as much of to disrupt your life as little as possible. But without causing brain damage, there's only so much they can hide.
Okay. So what? Okay, so is that why they give us screen memories of what's gone on?
Yes, because their intention is to take the fluids or to take the data that they collect, whether it's fluids, whether it's your behavior when interacting with other people or what have you. They would rather you question if that's a dream than have quantifiable proof, which can absolutely throw somebody's life right into a spin. So they don't technically actually cause missing time. Okay. Their interaction simply disrupts it. Disrupt your understanding of time. Or your gauging of it, if you will. Kind of like dropping into a coma.
Let's go to David. Keith, how am I unable to connect to any other life form?
In all likelihood there, Dave, you probably are connecting, only because it's on a very subtle level, you may well be chalking it up to your imagination. It may not be a lack of connection at all.
Trying too hard?
essentially trying to quantify is more to the point. Trying to, if you will, cubbyhole the experience or cubbyhole the communication to a recognized form. And all ETs do not communicate in a recognized form. At least not for most people.
All right, let's continue on. Let's go to Shiro, who is asking, are these sand creatures on Mars just like the movie Dune?
Only some of them. Dune was actually quite nicely done from that standpoint. But when you're talking, if I recall correctly, the ones he's referring to are the worms. They're not the only ones, but they do exist. And this is what I meant by the fact that they can come up and, you take a small one of those, they'll take a crawler out of operation in a heartbeat.
Okay. Well, let's continue on here, Keith. And let's go to David again. How can I connect with my higher self, Keith?
Well, the simplest is forget you don't know how. I know that sounds odd, but about it, okay, then you can do it. If you forget you don't know how, by definition, you automatically recall, because your higher self is seated smack in the middle of your subconscious. The link to it is. Okay, problem that you may be running into is if you're heavily focused on the logical side, then connecting with something that feels a little strange will be trying to understand how that differs. And the trick to connecting with it is not to question how it works. So it's a question of learning how to accept what you're picking up and run with first feeling, which takes a little time.
Right. All right, let's continue on here, Keith. Let's go to Sweet Donnie Cho.
The other thing is you can find a comfortable place where you wake.
Yeah, Keith, your computer is starting to go a little wonky again.
Absolutely.
So let's try and continue. You're pretty frozen on our screen here. There, it's just updated. All right, let's go to Donnie here. What if planets and stars are living things and are therefore gods that the extraterrestrials understand and interface with?
First and foremost, the planets and stars are living things, and they have their own belief in gods. Okay, they are simply a larger entity than most of the other races. Because the planets are the actual race of most planets are Kaboran. But not every planet is a Kaboran. Okay, but they believe in a single god they refer to as the prime originator.
All right, let's continue on. We have 5 minutes to go till the commercial break. R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. Shan wants to know, what if I found something? Who would I tell?
Well, that's an excellent question. Because frankly, I don't know. I mean, I'm always ears, but I am not a scientific researcher. Quite frankly, Dave is probably your best bet. Because if he isn't connected to somebody, you may run into a problem finding somebody that can sort it out. It's the best way I can put it. Sorry to drop that one in your lap, Dave, but...
That's all right. Let's move on to Baby Boy. Do aliens astrally project?
Some of them, yes. Some of them actually live on the astral plane. And then you have some that will telepathically project or luminously project, as in send a photo image of themselves to wherever they're going. Like there's a lot of different ways of getting from one planet, from one location to another. But yes, they do. The ones that astrally project still have to follow the same guidelines and the same rules, if you will, the rules of astral travel that humans have to follow.
Let's move on to voices. Keith, do unicorns exist? And if
Absolutely.
so, where do they live?
In what you guys know as Hollow Earth. And yes, they are very real. And even if you look at the mythological abilities of them, the mythological abilities are actually understated. But there are, you've got your unicorns, you've got your Pegasi, and you've even got your Pegacorns. And as you can well imagine, that boils down to a hybrid between the two.
All right, let's continue on, Keith. Let's go to Paramarv. Do the aliens have any sort of timeline for officially establishing contact despite the best efforts of the U.S. government?
Well, they've already done it despite the best efforts of any government. But are they intent on coming down and going, oh, here's a great big ship, take a look, we are here? No. Okay, they've already made contact. They started with contact with multiple different governments. When that didn't work out quite that well, they went to major corporations. When that didn't work out all that well, they started going to the unknowns, to the individuals. Okay, in order to let people know they are here, and no, they are not here in any functional capacity to overtake Earth or to straighten out Earth's mess. They are here to observe the socioeconomic evolution of a race that is on the verge of making it back into orbit. Making it back into travel, into interstellar travel. So they've already made contact in their timeline. They're just being very cautious not to destroy your timeline, your evolution at the same time.
All right, let's continue on here. Let's go to Grantavius. How can we converse with ET then?
Well, from my standpoint, I just talk to them face to face. But telepathically can work. Many people I've talked to refer to something called downloads. Okay. Quite often you'll get them through images in dreams or waking dreams. Okay, as in walking around looking and seeing something that doesn't quite fit and making contact in that fashion. The ironic part about it is that it's more a question of whether you feel like you're making contact or not. The quantifying of it is the complicated part.
All right, let's sneak in one more question here, Keith. From Jenny. R. Keith, I wish the aliens would start broadcasting a monthly broadcast on Earth history. Any chance they would do it?
Technically, chance, yes. Is it likely? I wouldn't hold my breath. Because mankind has to discover how much of its own history has been corrupted and how much of it hasn't. But they've got to do it on their own line. Because at this point, mankind isn't going to take it as factual anyway.
Gotcha. All right, R. Keith, you hold on. We got you for another 30 minutes. We're going to try and extend this as well. The ET Connection with R. Keith Andrews happens at the beginning of each month, where we bring in Keith to answer your questions, all things extraterrestrial. We appreciate you tuning us on in. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we're clear.
I have shut everything off except this one program.
Okay. Keith, you can just converse with the audience I've got all the questions preloaded here. Because of the tech errors, especially that first half hour, do you want to stay on a little bit longer?
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
All right. I'm just going to go check on my boy. I'll be right back, okay?
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay, guys, things have been, to say the least, problems and problematic today. And for that, I do sincerely apologize. Not that I can do anything about it. But Dave will get to as many of the questions as possible. You know, I'm trying to watch the only program I'm running right now is through the YouTube live feed here. Okay, and that doesn't work, and that isn't as consistent as I would like. But I've had to shut every program down. The other thing is, and I mentioned it a little earlier, tomorrow, just for those of you that have questions that we don't get to, I will be going live on YouTube myself on R Keith Andrews at 4:30 PST. You know, and you know, the reality of it is there is not much of a you know, the reality of it. Oh, what do we got here? You know, the reality of communication with offworlders. You know, I number one I've been asked how I can prove it, and I can't. I've got a staggering amount of corroborating evidence from other people, okay, that have witnessed my abductions. They've witnessed my relocations. I had one person actually witnessed my actual physical return from an abduction. On that day, they actually missed the bed, which was not nice of them. I dislocated my knee on the landing. You know, but I know for an absolute certainty that my life is an absolute nightmare where it comes to reality per se. But here's the other side of it, okay? And that is this funny little book that we brought up before, the Ilderbachian Chronicles. In this series, I cover, like in Races of the Worlds, I cover the if you will, encyclopedic rendition of the different races. But many of the races that I cover in Races of the Worlds, okay, are covered from an emotional standpoint or social interaction standpoint in the stories as well. Now, I mean, the questions that I've seen come through here are just absolutely remarkable. You know, and one thing I do want to let you guys know is there are very few questions that get qualified as stupid questions. Okay, but there are some, if I don't have an answer, I'll just tell you flat out I don't.
That's what we love about you, my man. Big thank you tonight to Vaughn, to our lower mainlander, Matrim, Sweet Donnie Cho for a hat trick, David, Stephen, Trisha, and Human Carl. Thank you so much for the love, guys. Very much appreciate it. Really helps out what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Hi, Pen Man. For some reason, he likes that. And still getting more questions for you, Keith.
Yeah.
I got still getting more.
That's okay. I'll leave the questions in your department.
Human Carl wants to know, are you going live at 4:30 Pacific AM or PM?
Oh, my apologies. It'll be PM Pacific. And then I'm usually, if my throat holds out, I'm usually on for a couple hours.
Yeah. That's awesome. Awesome.
Well, I finally figured out a time I could say, yes, I'll be clear at this point. So I figured, what the heck? You kept telling me to find one, so I'm blaming you for it.
All right. Little Timmy Senor, we see you sitting in the background. Do you want to join us or do you want to just wait? Hold on. You want to join us or you want to wait? Hold on. I got you on mute. No, you got yourself on mute. He ain't muted.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to jump in with you guys if you'd like me to, of course.
If you want, you're more than welcome. We got like 7 seconds. We're going to carry Keith over to the next half hour or two because of the first half. Here we go, everyone.
Awesome.
How you doing, Tim?
Doing great. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. Our resident Timbit, little Timmy Senor, has joined us as well. We're hanging on out, taking your questions, talking all things extraterrestrial. And here we go, Keith. We got more questions from our audience coming right up right now.
Yeah,
Let us start off with Matrim. Matrim is asking, do Martians and Terrans share souls?
Absolutely not. Now, don't get me wrong. When a Martian dies, it may choose to take on a Terran form and vice versa. Okay, but they don't actually share them per se. It's just another life form that a soul may take on. In all fairness, some souls decide they're going to take on life as a Kaboran, as an actual full-size planet.
Okay.
But it's not technically speaking a sharing.
But could you not reincarnate, say if you're a human this lifetime, could you not reincarnate next lifetime into a Martian?
Absolutely, and this is what I was referring to by sometimes one species will pass away, and then choose to manifest in a Terran body.
All right, Brown Dwarf is wondering, are aliens here in parasite form?
Some. How was that for a cut and dried answer? Just the Archons. That's what it is. The Archons actually, when they show up on Earth, they are a microscopic parasite. Okay. As they evolve, they take on larger hosts or they come into full form. And eventually they end up leaving Earth. By the time they reach full adulthood, they are larger than planets. So yeah, you do have some parasites that are some off-worlders that start off. Their incubation is done in a Terran form, like in a Terran host. Now understand, these same people, these same races, will turn around and use other species as host organisms as well.
All right. Let's continue on here. Let's go to Crystal, who is asking, are the 7-foot grays the same species as the 4-foot grays?
Not exactly. No, correction. Not at all. Because your 3 to 4 foot grays are your scientists. Your controllers are 4.5 to 5.5. But the 7-foot ones are your Aldebarans. Okay. They quite often get mistaken as a gray, but they're not.
Just
But
different
they're not
species.
Try that again?
Could you call them like a cousin species?
Well, you can call them just about anything you wanted to. There are similarities to them, but they aren't descended from the same line.
All right, let's continue. James is asking, did Earth have 2 moons at one time early?
Well, as long as we go way, way back, the answer is yes. But one of them, it's not so much it was destroyed as somebody decided accidentally ended up essentially playing pool with it and it left. As in another meteor coming into the area and just popped it out of orbit and the thing took off. But if you're asking, did Earth have a moon have a second moon while mankind was walking around? Not from anything I've seen.
Let's go to voices. Keith, what do you think about the idea that reincarnation is ultimately a trap and that we get tricked into coming back to Earth by evil entities called archons and the demiurge?
Well, there are impolite ways of putting it, but whoever is passing that information, in my personal opinion, you might want to ask if they want a shovel or a backhoe, because nobody's tricked into coming back here, and it's certainly not an evil action. You know, people are given the option when you go to reincarnate, you get to pick where you want to go.
Do you really?
Trying to figure out why I chose here, but well, actually,
Timmy here wants to come back as a Timbit, so
I'm just going to leave that alone completely.
All right, let's go to Mr. Gray Owl. Are the giant owls female? If so, they are hot. No, giant owls can be absolutely anything, can they not?
Well, they can be male or female, absolutely. The Uka are an alien race that looks very similar to Terran owls, and they would appear as giant owls. You know, I mean, if you think about it, the great horned owl is 3 feet tall. The Uka are on average about 4 to 4.5. And yes, they are flyers. The only difference is they don't use just their claws for combat.
What do they use their claws for?
Oh, no, they use their claws for combat. They just have weapons as well.
All right, let's continue on here. Let's go to Shan. I heard they, being the aliens, are coming next year from a prediction. Would they come for nuclear war?
If mankind decides to get to the point of lighting up an actual global nuclear war, you can virtually guarantee the off-worlders will shut the nukes down. If it's just a nuclear test or a single nuclear missile, they won't do anything with it because they're here to protect the planet, not the species. And if you guys want to blow yourselves out of the map and call it a way to peace, well, you'll find out the hard way. It doesn't work that way. But as long as it's not going to kill the planet itself, who I know as Esau and you know as Mother Earth, as long as it's not going to kill her or her children outright, they'll leave it alone because nuclear energy is a necessary stepping stone before you get to fusion reactors, which are necessary before you get to the OTE drive. And you guys will eventually get there. I mean, heck, you got there 40,000 years ago. It's only fair you get back there.
Why not? All right, let's move on to James, who is asking, I'd like to switch my question to, have you heard of a huge horned owls, like bigger than the size of people?
Once in a while, the answer is yes. But that's kind of like seeing a human that's 8 feet tall. Okay, they're a rarity. And of course, what you might be looking at, if you don't look at it right, is there are other races that are airborne. Okay. But let us not forget about the other thing you might be dealing with. There are races that can create a mental image to make you think you're looking at something a whole lot bigger. They're not actual shapeshifters. What they are is telepaths.
Okay. I guess we can accept that. Let's go to Vaughn. Keith, you're saying the Middle Earth exists. Who is there? Or what is there?
Many of what you know as ancient races, okay, such as your Elfid, your dwarves, the Minotaurs, which are actually known as the Gron. Okay, many of the mythological beings, as we discussed earlier, like your unicorns, do exist there. And the amount of carnivorous plants down there is just insane. So I mean, there's a staggering number of different elementals that live there, as in earth, water, and air. Well, correction, earth, water, and fire. Ultimately, if it's weird, it probably lives down there.
All right. Let's move on here to another question. From Michael Fontaine, do aliens like candy?
Some of them. I get a kick out of the Techlex. They like candied humans. But that's another issue altogether. But yeah, some do like their sweets. If you talk to the Orions or the Venusians, they do like their sweets. They do like the things that they're very sensually oriented.
All right, let's go to Super Ron, who wears a cape day and night. Do the aliens take wildlife?
Absolutely. They also take plant life and soil samples and water samples, etc. I even get a kick out of
How come we don't see a lot of deer or bear mutilations the way we do with cattle and horses?
Shock value. In other words, they pick up a deer or they pick up a bear. Okay, they'll do what they have to and throw it down, but out in the woods, wildlife would clear it out just like that. When you're dealing with cattle mutilations, fortunately, the cattle ranchers tend to come across them pretty quick, because most of the cattle ranchers are pretty responsible people. Spend too much time around cattle as far as I'm concerned, but I don't like cattle. But that would be why you don't see a lot of them leftovers.
Let's go to Aaron, or AA Ron, not too sure. Are we the only higher life form that dreams?
No. Every high advanced life form that I'm aware of dreams in their own way. And for exactly the same reason. Their curiosity triggers looking into the higher realms. And the dream state enables you to access them. Because when you're asleep, your logical brain goes on hold and the creative one reaches out to do the sorting. And every one of the higher races that I'm aware of dreams. And I'm talking about all the way from your Caborans, your Caborans and your Archons, all the way down to the Spear knocked in and smaller. But yeah, they all have dreams. They all have every race has some amount of extrasensory perception. Okay, that they see as extrasensory because it goes beyond what they're used to.
All right, let's continue on here, Keith. Let's go to Jenny. R. Keith, have you finished painting your alien figures?
Oh, heavens no. I mean, in all fairness, let me show you here. This one I can do real quick. This is only one of about 30 or 40 boxes that I've got. You see how full I see the number there? Well, here, we'll take that off.
So what are we looking at, Keith? We do have a radio audience.
Oh, that's a good point, too. I've got buckets of these little figures that are only like an inch tall. Okay, and all of them come in unpainted. I've got, roughly speaking, about 500 or so of them to do. So, no, they are definitely not all completed. My apologies for that, Dave, and to the audience for that matter.
No problem. No problem. All right, let's continue on here, Keith. Let us go to I love this question. Are there any books on successful techniques for hitting on alien space babes?
That I'm aware of, no. But then, of course, I've never gone looking for them. But the best way to learn, the best races to look to from that standpoint, if you're really interested, would be the Orions or the Venusians. Okay. Now, of course, you could always look into trying to date an Angelus. Very passionate people, whether we're talking about on the dating side of it or on the war side of it. Either way, they're very passionate. By the way, do not pick a fight with the Angelus, because they've got no problems about taking you for a flight and letting go of you. And my guess is humans don't fly well. They don't land that well either, by the way.
It all depends if we're tossed.
No, that's when they call it a salad. And that would be the Teklak.
Gyro wants to know, how can we communicate with them?
It boils down to, when you do come across them, first and foremost, treat them like they are just another person. Okay, regardless of what they look like, treat them the way you desire to be treated. Some of them will communicate verbally. Most of them understand some sort of sign language. And I don't mean American sign language. Where you'll have to go through hand movements and what have you, hand gestures to get an idea across. But most of the ones that you'll run into here, you can communicate with. You just have to realize that some will take offense to things in a real hurry. Same as some humans will take offense to things in a real hurry.
All right, let's continue on here. Go to another question. This one from Voices. Keith, do you suspect that Tim down below is a reptilian in disguise?
Well, that one I would leave to your own discretion. Don't take that the wrong way, Tim. But there's one thing I learned a long time ago, and I've mentioned this before. Even if I had an inkling one way or the other, I wouldn't be telling you. That would be up to Tim to disclose to anybody, or for him to decide if he wants to go and pretend he's play the part of lab rat. He's more than welcome to it.
That's one way to put it. One way to put it. All right, let's continue on here. R Keith Andrews, ET Connection. We got about 5.5 minutes, Keith. Derek is asking, do the ETs ever compete in any type of sports or something like that?
Oh, absolutely. My first trip up onto a starship had me actually playing what amounted to 0G wall ball. There are also some very violent sports. The vegans play a game similar to football, with the sole exception that when they go to tackle you, they try and break every bone in your body, or tear your arm off to get the ball. And then they carry on. And there are a lot of warrior type games where dead warriors in the middle of training, well, that just means they weren't good enough to go to war anyway.
Okay, let's continue on. Let's go to Pure Aussie Gold. When is Nibiru coming back?
Well, frankly, it's already inbound. That being said, I can't give you an arrival date, but I can tell you this. It's not a planet. It's a ship. Granted, it's the size of a planet, but it's a ship. And the way you know that is because if it were a planet cutting through our solar system, our solar system from gravimetric pull would tear itself apart. A ship can counteract via technology and or other methods, can counteract that magnetic pull or that gravimetric pull, if you will. Net result, safe to come back. But they're already inbound.
James would like to know, what's the spelling of that owl race you mentioned? The Uka or something like that?
H-O-O-K-A. Just the H is silent.
All right, we'll move on. Let's go to Nicole. Keith, why do different colored orbs invoke different feelings in humans? Example, the blue ones associated with extreme happiness or even being described as orgasmic.
That is because the different color wavelengths elicit different biochemical reactions in the human genome. It's not an intentional thing on their part as far as that goes. They're looking more at rank. Okay, at rank or positioning. The fact that it affects humans is a side effect.
Okay, so why do we have such a hard time believing in orbs?
Well, because we have a hard time in believing about everything else. Humans want quantifiable proof. They've been taught that trusting your instincts is a bad idea. As a matter of fact, if you think back to the witch hunts, most of the people that were burned at the stake or killed or whatever were people that trusted their instincts and subsequently got taught otherwise. But that's
all right, let's
why
move
people
on.
have trouble.
2 minutes, Keith. 2 minutes.
Sure.
Let's go to Penny. Keith, are there any alien races that are lovely to look at or are most frightening to see at first?
Well, lovely to look at. I think the best looking, in my opinion, would be the Venusians if we're looking at off-world races, or the Elfid. The ancient Elfid are a phenomenal race. Really frightening to look at. The Moldocs, especially if they've got their mouth open, are absolutely terrifying. You know, any of the reptilian races over the 8-foot mark are going to be frightening. And of course, I think one of the worst ones that you look at are the shadow walkers. You would know the shadow walkers as vampires. Okay, and any one of the Terrian tropes is going to scare the heck out of people. I think that's the easiest way to put it.
I think we got time for one more. Let's go to Shan. So do you think we would embrace the aliens coming if they did, or would we start shooting at them?
Oh, that's a proven fact. Humans on the whole will open fire and then ask if they're friendly. Amazingly, aliens don't like being shot at any more than humans do.
Yeah, that just doesn't seem like a very good idea. Doesn't seem like a very good idea. All right, Keith, we're going to wrap up this segment here as we are about to go to break. We're going to hold you over for a little bit in the next half hour after Swamp Dweller, and then little Timmy Senor is going to jump in here with some questions maybe as well for you, and then we'll take on the UFO report from there till the top of the hour. A busy, busy final half hour of Spaced Out Radio coming up with the ET Connection and R Keith Andrews continuing right after this. Hope you're enjoying yourself tonight. I know I am. This is why Keith is the conductor of the Woo Train, because we are rolling, rolling, rolling. Absolutely. Enjoy the show, everyone. Hour 3 of Spaced Out Radio with R Keith Andrews, Tim Senor, and myself, Dave Scott, is next. All right, we're clear, boys. I'll be right back. I'm just going to go check on my son.
Okie doke.
Timmy, you can turn your mic on and talk with Keith if you want.
Okay. Sounds good.
How are we doing, Tim?
I'm doing great. So Is that from an RPG game that you have those figures you're painting?
Yeah. See, I've been playing D&D on average of twice a week since 1976.
Excellent. And
Right.
so do you play online with buddies?
Yeah.
Who plays Dungeon Master?
I play Dungeon Master for one, but we're tabletop gamers still.
Oh, do you play at your house?
Yes.
That's awesome. And you're the DM.
I'm the DM for one of the games. A buddy of mine is the DM for the other one.
That's awesome. I had so much fun with that in high school and junior high. I was all over it. It's been a long time.
Yeah,
But
I found out about it in Christmas of 75. And by June of 76, I was playing full time.
full time. Wow. It's fun to create the maps and like get into all the modules and the character development. It's just so much fun. Before computers, right? I think I had a VIC 20 back in the day before even Apple was developed. But it was really, you had what?
I had a Trash 80.
There you go. Good times. But before there was any computers or computer games, it was all about the tabletop games. I think I was into Axis and Allies too.
I didn't actually get into that, but I did get into Aftermath.
Okay. I never played that one.
It's post-apocalyptic.
Cool.
Funny thing is, these books, the stories themselves come out of my own memories or out of actual games that people have built. They have played, like characters that other people built. Or myself for that matter.
So did you start having contact as a kid?
Birth.
Wow. And so were your parents aware of it and talk about it?
Well, that was the funny part. All my life, my parents told me I was completely nuts and needed serious help. On my dad's deathbed, he literally confirmed everything. And he says, look, I owe you an apology. He says, all your life, your mom and I have tried convincing you were nuts. Right. He says, but everything you've gone through, the post-death experiences, the psychic phenomenon, the alien abductions, all of it
Did he give you a reason?
Real.
Did he give you a reason why they chose to let you believe and lead you to think? What was his reasoning behind their decision to do that?
Small town, military base. Dad was in the military and high-level security.
Enough said.
Oh, yeah, let's not forget the fact I was in the middle of a Bible Belt in BC.
Okay.
Picture what the problem was?
That was the quickest short answer I've ever gotten. That could have gone long. That was a great answer. Yeah, that's a great answer. And so was the phenomenon just happening to you, or was it a family occurrence? Do you think it was because you were near a military base? Any thoughts on how and why?
The exact location as to what caused it, I don't know. As for were any of my siblings involved, I won't say. Okay, much like I told the person who asked about you, that's for other people to disclose about themselves.
Totally understood there. Cool. Okay, and so you don't know if any of the attraction to you or your family could have been due to the military connection.
I know that some of it was. I just don't know what started it.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I spent 3 years heavily involved with my lab. Military laboratories.
And so that's a new thing to me. I don't know very much about. Could you briefly explain what that would be?
You've heard of the super soldier program that they said started in the 1940s? Yeah,
I have heard of that.
Okay, and it still continues to this day. For me, in 3 years, I watched 197 of my friends, all kids, get murdered in front of my eyes in order to try and trigger my higher senses. It worked with a vengeance. I ended up being murdered because of it.
So did you see the film Men Who Stare at Goats?
Yes.
How did you feel about that? Did that ring true to you in any moments?
It's been a long time since I've seen it. I think I watched it back in the late 70s, early 80s sort of thing, and haven't seen it since. But yeah, it is accurate in the essence of it.
It's so interesting to think that we'd allow that to happen.
All right, guys.
It's incredible.
You'd be
Though.
amazed at
About,
what
1
mankind
minute.
has allowed.
1 minute.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jerry M. Danowski, how are you? Welcome to SOR Chat. Let's see here. Who else is here? Came in late.
Very briefly, Keith, what's your favorite character's name in D&D that you've, let's say your oldest character maybe, because you probably had one for years.
Well, I've had two. J.G. Wolfstround I played out of Aftermath. Shadowhammer was a dwarf I played in D&D. But the funnest one is actually one that accidentally ended up in my books by the name of Thunder Sawgrass.
That's great.
All right. Sorry, guys. Got to cut you off there. Thank you so much to Carl, Tricia, Steven, David, Donnie ×3, Matrim, Vaughn, and Pam for the super chats. Thank you to everybody who's hit subscribe. We're trying to get to 20,000 before the end of the year. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Abazo. Abazo is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with the R Keith Andrews ET Connection. But first, before we bring Keith back on, we're going to head to the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller takes us on another spooky journey.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. Hey, Swamp Dweller. With fall setting in and hunting season upon us in Big Sky Country, Montana, there's always something to be had. Our elk hunt started 1st of September, and with that, my family takes it seriously as we love the game and hunt along with stories and memories shared. This year was a bit different. My cousin and I were about 6 miles in our collective 9-mile hike, and we had what I would put as an encounter. But as any elk hunter would know, the terrain comes at a cost, and with this year's price, we were a little shaken up. As we were hiking through the thick brush and steep shell rock terrain, we took a quick break. We were having a late day snack, and my cousin decided to let off some bugles for fun. Well, the sound that came back to us was more than off-putting. We heard what sounded like an elk bugle at the beginning, which turned into a dog-like, maybe even human-like scream. We were shocked. So my cousin decided to make another attempt at communicating, and lo and behold, right after this next bugle, the noise came again, but it was much closer. When you're in the thick of it and a bugle comes through, it's usually less than 100 yards away, as obstruction with trees and brush distorts sound travel. So we decided to hike toward the noise, as I was sure this had to be some sort of beast we've never seen before. We expected some response and wanted it. Well, we expected something else, I'd say. But as all the other levels have proven, when you're in the area of the supernatural, all ambience noise is void, and you are hyper alert. We ended up hiking out with no more issues besides being shaken up and full of adrenaline and hopeful stories of us being able to spot something, but it was uneventful and fruitless. I'm not sure what we heard that day in the woods. Maybe it was just some sort of elk, but maybe it had some sort of health condition. But the way it sounded, the distortion behind its voice, and how it seemingly responded to our calls perfectly every time, it's definitely weird. This event happened 14 years ago. I was 13 years old at the time. My family loved camping in our trailer, so we decided to go camping in the middle of Easter break. This trailer was over 20 years old, so it didn't look enjoyable. We decided to go to the Micho State Forest. This was about 2,000 miles away from us. Once we got there, we noticed only one other camper at the campsite. This camper looked brand new and had no windows. Our family was not concerned. However, being younger, I was kind of freaked out. I have always been a paranoid child for whatever reason. I read stories about how kidnappers who would live in the middle of nowhere, in state forest and just woods in general, and always have these types of campers. That night, we decided to make a campfire to toast some marshmallows. Every once in a while, I would look back at that trailer and wonder who was there. After we ate all of our s'mores, we went to sleep. I decided to lock the door, and I had a strange feeling that we needed to close it. I'm a very light sleeper, so I woke up to the sound of the door handle rattling ever so slightly. I saw I was the only one awake, so I was petrified. I decided to sit up, look out the window. Outside, there was an older man that was jiggling the doorknob. It was, of course, locked, but he was still trying to open the door like no one's business. Even more frightening, he was holding a knife. I immediately, after seeing that, woke up my parents. The older man heard me wake up my parents because he had run into the woods. After they listened to what had happened, we packed up all of our stuff, drove out of there and reported it to the police, and they checked the area where we were. The new camper was still there at the campsite. When they went inside the trailer, they found the deceased body of a family of 5. There were knife wounds all over their bodies. I can't imagine what would have happened if we didn't lock that door that night.
Wow. Scary stories once again from the Swamp Dweller, who kicks off the 3rd hour of this show each and every Monday through Friday night. If you want more stories just like this, Swamp Dweller has thousands of them. All you got to do is go to his YouTube channel for free, hit subscribe, and listen. Just click play. It's that simple. We're going to continue on with the UFO report. Here's little Timmy Senor.
Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know.
All right, Tim, thank you for drawing on in with us with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection as well. Keith had a little bit of a rough first half hour. He was working there with some technical issues. So we're going to continue on with the ET Connection. I mean, this is really your first time sitting in with Keith. It's a little trippy at times, isn't it?
I think we're kindred spirits, actually. It sounds like we have a lot in common. So I'm stoked. Yeah. My eyes are open, my ears are open, and I'm enjoying a lot of it. It's not my first time listening in, but it's definitely my first time meeting him, and it's an absolute pleasure. It's been great. And by the way, I've heard of Hookah, and there's a really good book and comic book series based on Hookah or Uka. And it is kind of this owl alien creature, even in the series. So it's fantastic. So very cool. Very, very cool stuff.
Right on. Keith, how you doing there, buddy?
I'm doing great. I really appreciate hearing about the what I call corroboration, because I'm the worst researcher on the planet, I think. So when I ran into the Hookah, to me, that was just another race. But the fact that there are already documented cases of them is always nice to have.
Well, actually, I was going to ask, where do you find all this information? Do you get downloads, or like, how do you know all of this stuff, all about all these races?
On the average of 2 to 3 times a week, I get abducted.
And they tell you directly? That's where you get the names?
Oh, some of my best friends, I happen to be off-worlders. Off-worlders or ancient races.
And this
I
happened,
split the two. Well, the off-worlders are ones that are born off-planet.
right?
Ancient races are ones that evolved here.
Right, crypto terrestrials. I guess they're
Yeah,
being
some
called
people call them cryptids.
cryptids and crypto terrestrials. Very cool. And so I guess I do have a couple of questions. Do you mind me asking, since it's
Go
this
right
time?
ahead, Tim.
Cool, and it's really cool to be able to have you here. So was there any messages that you were ever given directly that they knew you may have a public platform at some point and they wanted you to convey that was kind of important?
In all fairness, the public venue, as in coming on to Spaced Out Radio, was something they had not anticipated. I dealt with all my stuff was dealt with one-on-one with local people. Until I guess about 2 years before I met Dave, I ended up listening into a UFO show, right, with MUFON, and ended up being asked to call in to talk to them. So I did, and next thing I know, well, here we are, some 10 years later.
Right. And how have you managed to find balance with this massive knowledge and having to have your day to day? Like, how have you managed to incorporate both, or perhaps balance out both? Because we know that since the 70s, if you've had knowledge since then it's been heavily stigmatized throughout these decades. And so how have you personally managed to balance that out?
Oh, that was the easy part. Number one, I turned to gaming. They're all weird people anyway, for the most part, so they just took it in stride. And then I became excessively reclusive, so that I didn't have to deal with people. And of course, I ended up being drawn into the psychic work. And again, when you're dealing with psychics, you're dealing with people that are a little different than the norm, but they're a little bit more accepting on the whole.
Right.
As for how to get along with people, well, subtlety is not my strong suit. We had a situation a long time ago, a number of years back, I think, maybe only a few months. David know better than I would. But we had a situation where somebody asked me flat out why he should believe what I'm telling him. My response was, shall we say, not socially acceptable. I didn't swear at the guy, but
Right. It's irrelevant whether he believes it's not up to you to convince anybody. So I can imagine you probably let loose.
That is true. I was just a little like, I was talking to somebody the other day and they asked me a question, and I looked at them and because what they asked was, they found out my name was Keith. And the person turned around and goes, "Are you a man?" Well, my immediate response was, how many cruel parents do you actually know? But
Right.
for me, I've really learned to isolate myself from people.
Because you get hit with the cruelty stick. Anytime,
Being a full empath, I can feel what they're going through.
Interesting.
I can feel the fear, etc.
And it comes from fear, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's interesting. And I can't imagine what that must have been like, but you've maintained quite a lot of information that you're sharing with our audience. So for one reason or another, I think that's incredible. And so there was no direct message that was ever imparted to you that felt like important.
There were three.
Okay,
Every
let's talk
one of
about
them.
that.
See, I ran into the Council of 12 the day I was born, and I was handed a very simple message. There are only 3 laws in existence that must be followed.
Just 3?
Just 3.
Just 3. I can't quite do it, but that's amazing that you did it.
Well, that's
that
okay.
way.
What you do, I can't do. Not well.
Oh, that was cool that you did that. I like that. Just 3. Anyways, please continue.
Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. And energy out, energy in. Okay. And if mankind will turn around and start treating each other and the environment in which they live the way they personally desire to be treated, you'll find war goes away, famine goes away, jealousy dissolves, right? And net result, we have prosperity. 40,000 years ago, it was absolute peace on earth. There was no war, there was no jealousy, nobody was starving, right? And that was what the biggest message I came back with was to let people know on the whole that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. That ultimately is the message I came back to give people at this point. I've tried it a few times before. It hasn't worked out that well. And this isn't adding up to a real successful run either.
Have you ever had an NDE?
Oh, I went way past that. I was clinically dead 4 times before I hit 10, and another half dozen after that somebody else that wasn't a doctor had to restart.
And what happened during some of those or any of those?
Well, I did find out that hell, heaven, that neat little place where everybody crawls into a coffin and lays there for a while, that plot of dirt that some people believe they lay in until their body rots.
Mm-hmm.
All of it exists, but none of it are you permanently held in. You're only held there until such time as you come to realize you're not held there.
Interesting.
I mean, I will tell you, the hot tubs in hell, way too hot for my liking.
I'm sorry to chuckle, but that's good. I like that. Okay. All right. Have you been on the flip side of that since you bring that up? Have you tasted the fruits of heaven if you've dipped in the pools of hell?
Been to heaven, been to hell, tried to nap in a coffin 1 year.
1 year? What does that mean?
Oh, I remember many of my past lives. I think I've documented 18 or 20 on this planet. Never mind prior.
Interesting. It's really interesting. We could talk for hours. I'm totally intrigued. I'm going to hit you up with another one here. So, okay. So does anyone that we know of publicly in the UFO world or maybe the technology world, has anyone that we know of come close to the technology that perhaps ET has?
That I can give you by name? No. That I know of, the answer is yes. Of course, understand names and I don't get along well.
Can you give me just a description? I don't need the names. I'm more interested in just the story.
Well, I can tell you that Stephen Hawking actually was only a couple of years away from proving the existence of the multiverse. Okay, where it comes to technology, mankind already has they've already developed of their own accord a motor vehicle engine that will not break down. They're on the verge of understanding interstellar travel, but they haven't quite figured out how to track the necessary components to actually make the OTE drive work.
I'm sorry, the what drive?
OTE.
OTE.
Identification of the tri-transtemporal equipolarity.
Oh, you said that way too fast. Could you say that slower for me? I'll read it back later, but what was that?
The oscillatory densification of the tri-transtemporal equipolarity.
Dave, I see you staring into the screen. Did you catch that? Does that mean
I don't
anything
understand
to
a word he's saying right now.
you? I wish I understood any part of that. But go ahead and just continue, because
on the plus side there, Tim, contacting me, I'm more than willing to explain it in depth.
Yeah.
The last person I tried to explain it to took me 2 hours, and they had a master's in rocketry and astrophysics.
It's incredible. Well, please
Just so you're
continue.
aware.
Don't let me stop you. Please continue from the OTE.
Okay, the HARP technology that mankind is using right now, they're playing around with it to try and figure it out, but what they've got is a first-generation atmospheric generator. Okay, they've got in their possession, which they haven't released, the secret to unlimited energy. Problem is, with unlimited energy, your entire economic backbone collapses.
Right.
Which is one of the reasons why they won't do it. They've got parts of a matter relocation system. Okay, as in what you would call a teleport pad or a transporter. Okay, they've already got weaponry that literally will kill humans without any fallout. Now, don't get me wrong. War has never brought peace. It brings quiet, but it does not bring peace. And that's one of these things that humans have to come to understand. Far easier to work together and develop technology if you're not ducking bullets.
Right. Right. It's horrible to think of what we've done with technology, like the crowd control weapon we have that controls the water just below the surface of your skin. And it's absolutely excruciating. And you can control people invisibly with this, supposedly. It's just horrible to think that that's what we would do with our technology. We would torture each other with it rather than see a possible benefit. That's just...
Well, that's the funny thing. The off-worlders look at humans playing around with this, with their weaponry, going, you guys haven't got a clue what you're doing with war. To them, a war is simple. If you have to have a war, wipe the enemy out. All rules go aside. There are no war crimes. Mankind is so caught up in fear and caught up in controlling everything around them that they're forgetting you do not control energy. You guide it.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So I'll go into my next question. And so are a lot of your experiences physical? And when do the dreams end and the reality begin? And how do you know, and how does your brain decipher in between them? Because it must be hard, especially if you have intuition like you do and empathy.
The first part of the question is I end up being most of the time physically abducted. Okay, as in taken. Because I live on my own and because I sleep in my own bed, you don't see it much. Although I have had that witnessed when I had a girlfriend here, years ago. How do I know when the reality and the life, or like when reality and the abduction side of things or the imagination ends? That was a little hard. They clinically proved that because of the way that I am, because of what happened when I was 20 months old, I literally physically look at the positive, the negative, and the neutral all at the same time. Okay, like I don't go, oh, this is one possibility, here's another. I see all three at once. Okay, so how do I relate to the way the rest of the world thinks? I don't. To me, it just doesn't add up.
Right. Right. And so the experiences that you have there physical, have you ever had any physical remnants on your body, or have you ever been altered in any of your experiences?
Oh, yeah. When I was around about 4 years old, maybe 5, the Talons took me and snapped my right arm to the point that it was offset by about 30 degrees. Up until 2013, if I took my hand and held it out this way and I went to fold it where I can touch my shoulder here now, up until 2013, my hand would be over here. I physically couldn't touch my shoulder.
R Keith Andrews. Are we going to keep him, Tim? Are we going to keep him around?
Oh, please, if you'd like to stick around, absolutely.
Keith, if you want to stick around, we still got more audience questions. I know Tim's intrigued.
Take a run to the washroom and I'll be right back.
All right. Thank you for letting us know. R Keith Andrews, the ET Connection extendo version. His final appearance here on 2022. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this.
Yeah, we can talk K-Doors anytime. right?
I don't even know what the hell one is.
Canadian Civil Aviation Daily Occurrence Reporting
Oh, yeah.
System.
Yeah. Talk that anytime.
Got some meaty stuff coming from you guys up there up north. Past few
Right.
weeks. Yeah, past few weeks you've had
Meaty.
a rash.
It's juicy.
A rash of
Juicy.
incidents. Yeah. You like the juice. We know this.
Love the juice.
I'm bringing it. I'm bringing the juice. Hey, you gotta text me your maybe your work address or something so I can have it sent or surprise at work. Your toque.
Oh no.
Your toque.
Just send my toque to my house.
Yeah. Your dogs won't get it.
No. Goes to my P.O. box.
It's so perfect for you. When I saw it, I was like, yeah. Oh, and I secretly actually got two, so we can wear them in tandem.
Together. Yes.
It gets chilly in Oregon. I mean, for me, it's freezing, but it's not like your BC Sub-Zero. Ugh. This is the man that wants to go and put himself on the skillet of Las Vegas with us, folks.
Yeah, you have no idea how cold it is here right now.
Oh,
I am freezing. I am freezing right now.
I'll bet you are. Look like you need a furry hat, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Tis right here. Look at this, his 8th anniversary gift.
Oh,
Look
nice.
at that. Isn't that just
Thank you,
perfect
baby
for
boy.
him?
Yeah, absolutely nicely lined.
Oh, he's just gonna love it. It's gonna look great on him. And it's got the golden yelling mouth on the back, which was so perfect for him.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna leave that alone.
Gonna look great on you.
I look forward to it.
So you were talking about favorite films earlier, and no one mentioned Explorers. I wonder if anyone remembers that film, where these boys come up with a way to create a bubble, and they build a ship, and the ship goes in the bubble, and they're cruising over their neighborhood. I think it had, I think there was River Phoenix when he was a kid.
I think vaguely I remember the show. I don't recall whether or not I ever watched it.
I think it was a Disney film, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I don't actually watch much in the way of TV anymore.
There you go. Look at that. Jason Preston, River Phoenix, Ethan Hawke.
Nice shot.
1985. Adventurous space tale stars Ethan Hawke and young star River Phoenix as misfit best friends who dream of space travel become a reality when they create an interplanetary spacecraft in their homemade laboratory and embark on a secret adventure to another galaxy where they find out that there are things that things are not always as different as they seem. It's a weird quote, but there you go. It's really good. I loved it.
What I found with the different races is they're very similar to humans when you start looking at their socioeconomic interactions, especially the early parts of their civilizations.
Meaning that certain things have value on their planet, and so they subsequently monetize it in certain ways. Right?
In some races, yes. The Draconian race was a prime example where they expanded their empire way too far. And eventually, because they expanded because of the same thing, in search of minerals, etc., and they expanded so fast that it buckled It buckled at one point, and they left three colonies out in the middle of nowhere. Well, 3 multi-planet colonies out in the middle of nowhere. Net result, you have the Strazazians, the Tormenons, and the Strazazians, the Tormenons, and shoot, now I'm pulling them blank. There's a third race that is tied to them.
All right, guys, hold on. We got about 45 seconds. I want to say a big thank you tonight to Pam, Vaughn, Matram, Donnie Joe ×3, David, Steven, Trisha, and Human Carl for the amazing super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And don't forget, Las Vegas, Nevada, second annual Spaced Out Radio Fan Party coming on May 19th through 21st at the Golden Nugget Casino. And you know what? We are going to have a blast. We want all of you there as well. There's going to be a bunch of stars who appear on this show joining us there. Here we go, everyone. Final half hour. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It's supposed to be time for the UFO report with Tim Senor, but R Keith Andrews is still hanging out with us, and it's good to have these gentlemen back talking all things extraterrestrial. Keith, Tim, how are you guys?
Not that bad at all.
Awesome.
Really happy with the way it's running. Really enjoying talking to Tim here, and of course, as usual, definitely talking to our audience.
Well, let's get to an audience question right here. Here's Lily Pond. I've heard that ETs love our beer, and it's a huge secret space program export item. Is this true?
Well, it's not so much the off-worlders like the beer, but I will tell you, the rumors you've heard in the different writings about the Dwarven race, which are an ancient race, they absolutely love our beer. You know, I mean, the only complaint I've ever heard from them is it doesn't have enough grit to it.
The
But
molten
that's an easy
beer.
thing to solve.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as far as does it get exported, frankly, it wouldn't be a shock.
All right, let's get to another question from Voices. Keith, have you started lifting weights so that you could beat up your reptilian and demon friends in arm wrestling contests?
The answer would be, as far as have I started working with weights? Yes, I dropped my weight below the 200 that I was aiming at, so I am now starting to work with weights. But the purpose is not to beat up to beat up anybody. I'm a pacifist. Besides that, especially, by the way, Tim, that other race was the Kamalians. And the thing is, you don't need a real high strength to deal with the Kamalians. You just need to know where to hit them. You know, every race has nerve clusters. Every race, and do understand, when I talk about being a pacifist, I haven't been in a physical fight in my life on Earth. You know, I've hit, I think, 3 people, not talking about family. But am I aiming at building my strength back up to functional? The answer is yes. Now that I've dropped my weight below the barrier I was aiming for the end of the year, now it's time to start getting my health back.
Awesome. Congratulations. Right on,
Thank
brother. That's great. Dave's on a health kick too.
Trying. I'm
You're doing
trying.
great. Yeah, you're doing
Pam
great.
wants to know, Keith, do the aliens have their own holidays and celebrations?
Absolutely. Some of them, in all fairness, because some of the races have come to Earth and have spent time here, some have adopted some of the traditions of Earth. But when you start looking at their traditions, where it comes to things like the passing of a loved one, some of the traditions are a whole lot more callous than what humans are. You know, I mean, a prime example, you take a look at any one of the four linked reptilian races. and your grandfather dies at the dinner table, if he didn't die of disease, it's like, gee, he was a wonderful person. Thank you very much, Grandpa, for all your help. Toss him on the table, dinner served. And that's pretty much the end of the funeral. Because from their standpoint, you don't waste. Okay, now fortunately, when I've been up there, they've been kind enough to cook whatever it was I was going to eat. But but they do have their celebrations, where it comes to spring celebrations or their major social events or major civilization alterations. They've absolutely got their own.
All right, we can continue on here. Miss Anonymous, first time in our chat room, is asking, are empaths like myself a magnet attracting attention?
Not exactly a magnet, but empaths are because they're more sensitive to the emanations going on. They tend to notice what's going on more readily, and this does catch some of the race's attention. But that does not mean that because you're an empath, it certainly does not make you a prime target for abduction. Okay, just a prime target for paying attention to what it is you're picking up. Will they track your brainwaves to notice? And that's done at a distance more often than not. They'll do it to notice what the impact of events around you are likely being recorded as, and how that affects your physiological configuration.
Got a question for him there, little Timmy Senor?
I sure do. I was wondering since we've recently found out that water potentially was on Mars, and it probably was on other planets as well, and may not be as rare as we thought, in your opinion, what could be attracting ET to our planet, and what is the rarest element in the universe potentially that you know of?
I am not a scientist, so the answer to the last part I don't know, but I do know exactly what's drawing the ETs here.
Okay.
Mankind right now has returned to that point where they're going to reach interplanetary, possibly interstellar capability, or they're going to bomb themselves back to the Stone Age. Okay, this is the fourth time they've done this that I'm aware of. And
you mean destroy themselves back to the Stone Age and restart?
Essentially, yes.
Okay, continue.
Okay. But right now, it is literally the xenosocioeconomic evolution of the human race that is drawing the off-worlders' attention, because they're watching a civilization as it blossoms. So it's either going to blossom fully and people are going to figure out that getting along will work better than trying to shoot each other, or they won't. But from a xenosocioeconomic standpoint, absolutely an exciting time.
Any insight as to which way the penny's going to drop?
I've watched it do it 4 times that I can remember. And mankind is walking down the exact same road. Unfortunately, it is being driven by corporate, government, and religious, promptings to fear everything and to look at everybody as a lesser person. You look at the way that society is now separating itself. Okay, many races have gone through this, and every one of the ones that went through it ended up in massive turmoil. And then they come back to it and go, well, that was a waste of time. Kind of looking back over their own history going, 3,000 years ago, our race did this same dang thing. Why are we doing it again? And mankind will get to that point.
Is there a channeler out there or a source of information that you feel is reliable that the community can go to?
This is going to sound really bad, but no. 90% of the ones that I've run into, in certain areas, there are people that I do agree with, that I will look to. But when we're talking about the socioeconomic evolution, the future of mankind, most of the people I talk to, or most of the people I even hear about, start off with, "Oh, I've been in touch with the galactic people, and they're saying the aliens are getting ready to come down and wipe us out." Okay. The moment somebody starts talking to you about off-worlders coming down to wipe out mankind or to fix mankind, throw out everything they say after that, in my opinion.
You briefly mentioned the Council of 12 that you met at your birth. Could you explain a little bit more about that? Because I think we've probably all heard of that before. What is that interpretation to you, and what is that?
The Galactic Consortium is literally a group of people. Okay, a group of 12 people. You may well consider some of them, because of their spiritual evolution, they are a council that work together to help other races get along. Okay, if a race has a problem, they come to the council. The reason it's 12 is because if the council is split evenly in half, then the final decision goes back to the person asking the question.
Interesting. And are the human beings represented there?
Absolutely not. Not as a member of the council. And the reason for that is because mankind is still afraid of its own skin color. Okay, you take a look at that whole thing. Until mankind realizes that no matter your gender, no matter what you identify as, your skin color, your financial state, or your political affiliation, until mankind realizes that none of that matters and you're all equal, you will not, the race will not, or more to the point, the species will not be in a position to even have a run at becoming a member of the 12.
Why do you think that people like yourself and Dave that have come into contact and been given massive information like this, why do you think that you're teased with this and not given the tools to spread it?
Well, given the information is because I don't see people as being different. Okay, for me personally, I have never looked at anybody because of any of the aforementioned separators. Mm-hmm. I've never treated anybody differently. Okay, same. I mean, it was funny because when I first started dealing on an amicable level with the off-worlders, I didn't treat them any differently either. Okay, I literally told the patriarch of the Srazazian military that, frankly, I wasn't interested in his unwillingness to protect his own people. And I believe the term that I used to a military, what would amount to a global general, or more to the point, an empire general, was I literally looked at him and I went, "If you're too afraid to go and deal and help your own people, I'll deal with it." I was told I was being disrespectful. I said, "So?"
So?
Like that. I've
just like that.
I have another question. Do any of the alien races have the ability to potentially unlock human DNA and extend life and heal and do wonderful, amazing things?
How about if we start with the first answer? Humans have the ability to extend their own life. But the answer to your question is yes, there's a number of them that do.
Oh, please tell me more of your first answer.
All you have to look at is the subquantum correction, submolecular quantum magnetic flux built inside every human cell. Modify the coding on it, and you can live longer. You can heal diseases. Now, do not get me wrong. Before I finish that, we are talking about medicine here. This is done in conjunction with modern medicine, with modern or naturopathic medicine. This is not a replacement for it. Okay, but you can reprogram every cell in your body to do something different.
Right, and is nanochemistry and things like that the reality that we have right now? Is that anything close to what you're describing? Like our current nano abilities?
The nanotechnology you're talking about is real, but it's very clunky compared to what I'm referring to.
Okay.
See, aside from this last bout that I just spent the last 3 weeks fighting double pneumonia, I haven't been ill with an actual disease in over 25 years.
Why do you think that is?
I don't have time for it. So I just modify the whole thing and go, I'm not dealing with it. It can go away.
And why do you think this last bout got you?
Ultimately, because I lost focus and got really fed up with dealing with humans that were being, in my opinion, absolutely stupid. So instead of telling them where to go, I tried dealing with them.
And internalized it and got ill.
Yes.
Interesting.
Same thing I did when I was a kid. I used to absorb other people's illnesses and let my own body heal them.
By being very empathetic, is this through your empathy abilities that would be?
Essentially, yes.
Interesting.
Empaths can actually absorb the negative energy off of another person and then translate it, and then transmute it into a healthy body in their own right. When I was a kid, that's how I worked, and I figured out how not to do it, and then decided I was going to do something really stupid. My son came home with double pneumonia, so I took it. He healed in under a week, and I dealt with it after that.
That's very interesting. If anyone wants to jump in here, I do kind of have one final throw in.
One final, and then I got some more,
okay.
Tim.
All right. Did you see the film Interstellar?
No.
Okay, then don't even bother with my question. Go ahead and go, Dave.
All right, let's go to the Doug Shelby. Keith, did I ever ask you if you had played a role-play fantasy sci-fi game called Star Frontiers?
I did. I ran a chap. What the heck was he? I did run a chap. His name was Chantel NT. I forget what the name of the race was, but it was the game was a riot.
All
yeah,
right.
we played that for a couple of years.
2 more questions from our audience. Christy, first-time listener in our chat room. Do the 8-foot blue birds really exist? Are they the same as the blue avians?
Essentially, yes. Number one, do they exist? The answer is yes. Okay. And some people call them bluebirds. Some people call them blue avians. And I'd have to go back through my notes to, quite frankly, they're actually included in volume 2. But off the top of my head, I cannot recall exactly what they actually call themselves. But they are very real.
All right, and let's continue on. One final question from our audience tonight. YJ is asking, R. Keith, I've recently begun postulating that grays are possibly a smaller being inside an artificial biosuit. Am I on the right track?
Only partially. The grays themselves are actually 3 feet tall-ish. Okay, they vary, like with humans, they vary in height. But they do have biosuits for some of their larger maneuvering. There are, they have what humans call map suits, also known as man amplification. Okay, so when they have to deal with bigger complications or planets that are much more hostile, they will use these suits to maneuver. Not the least of which is on the Sarzazian homeworld.
Over the last 12 months, since this is your last show before 2023, what has been one of the biggest surprises for you, Keith, this year?
Are you talking about regarding the show or just overall?
With aliens, and normally what we do talk about.
Oh, okay. I think one of the biggest ones was when I got taken when I actually got taken to the planet that people are referring to, and it's not a planet, to the ship that people are calling the planet Nibiru. Okay. On that planet, yes. Well, number one, the Nibiru itself is the ship they're on, but it's the Anunnaki that are on it. I mean, that was, to say the least, an interesting trip. But I think that was one of the best ones I ran into from that end. You know, other than that, well, since I didn't try the death thing again this time, life has been for me pretty much normal. But I think that's probably one of the more exciting events.
Usually is. Keith, 45 seconds or about a minute here. Tell everybody where they can find your YouTube channel, your books, and everything that's good about you.
On my YouTube channel is R Keith Andrews. Below every video, you'll see a list of ways of getting a hold of me. And of course, you can find me on Facebook at rkeithandrews.com and at ilderbach.com, plus Twitter and LinkedIn. But like I said, these are all listed below. Theoretically, if you contact Dave, he may put you through to me.
Yeah, I'll just send them to your Facebook page. That's what I do.
Easiest way to find me. I do my best to answer.
Yeah, you're very, very good that way. Tim, your first experience with R. Keith? Kind of interesting, right?
Loved it. Thank you so much for the invitation. I appreciated it a lot. Thank you for that. Yeah.
No worries. No
Thanks
worries.
a lot,
and a big thank to you all.
Nice meeting you.
And a big thank you all for tuning us in tonight. We very much appreciate R. Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. It literally happens here near the beginning of each month, where we come in and talk extraterrestrials, sometimes all night long. And we appreciate Keith for being a good sport with us tonight. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thaw rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyrighted by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home.
I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night. All right, we're clear.
Okie doke. And Tim, if you ever want to connect with me, doing so isn't really that difficult.
You're a difficult guy. Just be honest.
Oh, that I agree with. Yeah, that I will absolutely agree with.
Yeah, I'm definitely up for it. Anytime you've got a D&D game rolling, just bring me on in. I'll zoom in.
That might be tricky.
Hi, Derek. How you doing?
It's so much fun, but it was great to meet you.
Nice
so
meeting
much.
you too, Tim.
Right on.
Thanks
All
again,
right.
Dave.
All right, guys. You know what? I'm going to be doing my editing tomorrow. I am freezing in my studio tonight.
Cool.
Absolutely freezing. It is
Well, I
cold
will
in here.
go ahead and sign off, and I will see y'all next week.
Absolutely.
Have a fun weekend, everyone. Take care.
We're going to cut this one short, and I apologize to all of you, but thank you to Carl, Tricia, Stephen, David, Donnie Cho, Matram, Vaughn, and Pam for the amazing super chats. Very much appreciate the love. Thank you to all our new subscribers out there. Very much appreciate it. And thank you to all of you for hanging on out with us. It's been a great, great night. We're going to have a good time. Keith, we'll check you out later, buddy.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Dave. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
See you in 2023, Keith.
That you will.
Bye-bye.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.